Well, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us here, the intersection of faith and culture. This is the Meeting House on Faith Radio, and it's so important that we continue to remember the plight of Christians around the world. Some of them are called to do ministry in countries that are not necessarily receptive to the gospel, the spread of the word of God. You have some who are living in various countries where they know that they will face punishment merely for being Christians and certainly sharing their faith. And I've had the opportunity through the ministry of International Christian Concern to be connected with Joy and Joy's last name. And I'm going to give this a try here. She's taken me through the phonetic spelling here, but it's Subasiguller, and she is joining us today. And she and her family at one point, not too long ago, were living in the nation of Turkey. And you may have read some of her story. I know it's been covered in Christian media, but you are married to a pastor in Turkey, and some action was taken against you by the Turkish government. It's resulted in your entire family moving to the United States, and more specifically to Southern Alabama. So, Joy, let me welcome you to the Meeting House here on Faith Radio. And you are originally from Florida. You are married to a Turkish pastor. So let's give our listeners a little bit of an opportunity to get to know you. How did the two of you meet?
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for covering our story. So I met my husband because I had gone to Turkey as a missionary, and I went as a student. That was how I got my visa. And about the time I was getting ready to graduate, I met my husband. But we had a mutual friend, a German couple, actually, who cared for us both, loved on us very much. And when I met my husband, we were not thinking about any romantic interest at all. I had prayed for 7 years specifically that I would not marry a Turkish man. And he was determined he was not going to marry a foreign lady, especially not an American.
Oh, so there you have it.
So it took a lot of God's working, several months of God working on our hearts for us to start even thinking about it and then start praying about it and considering it. But it was very clear to both of us that God meant for us to be together.
Well, let's talk about what you and your husband were doing in Turkey. You have a ministry together. You have not only a husband, you have how many children?
3 small children.
3 small children. So tell me just a bit about the ministry to which God has called you in the nation. I use that present tense, has called you within the nation of Turkey.
Yes. After my husband and I married, we prayed and we really felt God leading us to start a church. So we joined with another American couple, and together God built a church through our obedient efforts. And so my husband was pastoring this church when we were kicked out. It had grown to about 50 people in our congregation, and we had baptized over 50 people in the past 7 years we've been serving there.
So here you have a Turkish pastor with an American wife, and you have 3 kids. What were you, prior to the time when this action was taken against you, were you observing perhaps some attitudes or actions of the Turkish government that caused you to perhaps be concerned about what might be on the horizon?
Yes, actually, when my husband and I married, we had started talking through this issue that because I'm a foreigner, I might be denied a residence permit someday. I thought I would be the last foreigner to be kicked out because I'm married to a Turk. But we saw other people slowly getting denied, other people slowly getting entry bans into Turkey. And so we realized that it could be a possibility for us.
So let's take our listeners now to the moment where you discovered or were finding out that the government was going to ask you to, or demand that you leave the country. What led to that, and how did it occur?
Sure. I had applied for my residence permit to be renewed. And when we finally found out that it had been denied, we were not told why. There's a one box that says other reasons, and that box had been checked. And the people that told us didn't know why, but they said that we were denied a residence permit.
Well, you are listening to Meeting House here on Faith Radio, and joining me today is Joy Subasiguller, and she and her husband and 3 children right now temporarily living in the United States after her having been denied if I can say it like this, a renewal of the residence visa under which you were living there in Turkey. No reason given, as you were sharing earlier, for your being removed. So what did you learn as time progressed? This was something that was officially, there was no reason given. So what did you discover?
Sure. We appealed immediately. When they gave us the notice that my residency permit had been denied, we were given 10 days to leave the country, but we appealed immediately. And in the process of that appeal, when the judge asked why it was denied, I was told that I have code N82, which is a code used to label people who are considered a security threat to the nation of Turkey. But they didn't say they did not say what I had done to be considered a security threat. But there was some mention in the court documents about referring to cases where people had been sharing Christian propaganda.
So tell me about what happened next. How is it that you began to seek other places to live?
Sure. So we immediately started looking where the options were. We wanted to stay near Turkey because we're very connected to my husband's family. We have very close relationships, and to many of the people in Turkey and to the people in the church. So we wanted to relocate to a country close to Turkey so that they could visit us very easily. And as we're looking with the corona restrictions all around us, what countries are open, where can we go, what places have a population of Turks where we can potentially minister to. At the time, the door to Cyprus opened. And so we moved to northern Cyprus. When we got to the point that we realized we had to leave, we lost our first appeals. And so we realized we have to leave. And so we moved ourselves to northern Cyprus.
You and your husband were not the only people in a similar set of circumstances to actually experience this. Talk about that, if you would.
Sure. Yes, so over 70 people have received the same entry ban, if I can say. The Turkish government adamantly insists it's not an entry ban because they say all you have to do is get permission before you enter the country. But this permission is never given, so it's an effective entry ban. And these other 70 people have been serving in Turkey, some for many, many years, some for just a couple of years. Many of them are pastors or key people in the Turkish church. And these people all of a sudden, without any reason given, have been told to leave the country.
If you could give our listeners a little bit of an overview about the attitude of the Turkish government toward Christians. People may have heard, they may be familiar with your story. They may be familiar, for instance, with Pastor Brunson, who was actually, he faced persecution, was put in prison for his faith. So what's the general attitude of the Turkish government toward Christians?
The general attitude is that we are a threat. And part of this comes from former times, from the times of the Crusades. But they have some kind of concept that the Christians are going to swoop in and they link us all with the American government and everything that's happening. And they think that we're going to swoop in and try to take over. So they are trying to clamp down on that.
Well, you are listening to Meeting House here on Faith Radio. Great to welcome to the program Joy Subasiguller, and she is joining us from South Alabama. She and her family have relocated to the South Alabama area, to the U.S. from Turkey by way of Cyprus. And so tell me about your your current status. I know that you would like to go back to Turkey, but things perhaps are not falling into place in that way. Of course, we know that God's ways are higher than our own, and you've entrusted your lives to the Lord. So, kind of share with us your current status and attitude.
Sure. So right now we are praying and looking for different opportunities. We see that there are many places in the world where Turks have settled, and there's very little evangelical work going on among them, especially not Turkish Christians working among them, because there's very few Turkish leaders to begin with, unfortunately, and most of them are in Turkey. So we see a huge potential for ministry. We are praying about where to go, where we can get access. And so we will be discovering that and watching as the Lord leads us.
So, what has been your husband's attitude toward what has been taking place? Obviously, he is from Turkey. So this is in essence his home country saying, well, you are no longer welcome under these circumstances. How's that affected him?
It's been very hard for him to watch his country take this turn. He didn't expect it, but he's disappointed in the government system and the judicial system. But at the same time, he has a very strong faith in the Lord, that God has guided us, that he has brought us out of there, that he has a purpose for us somewhere else. And so he is not shaken by that. And his firm faith, he can continue to move forward.
So is there any opportunity to appeal this decision? Is it pretty much final, or is there maybe a window of opportunity? Again, we recognize God can do all things. So how would you appraise that situation at this point?
Sure. The appeals will continue, and we plan to appeal all the way to the European Court of Human Rights. Unfortunately, nobody is winning these cases right now, and the judges are strictly controlled by the ruling party right now, unfortunately. So the judicial system doesn't work anymore. And Turkey hasn't been recognizing the decisions of the European Court of Human Rights. So it would take a miracle for me to be able to go back to Turkey.
International Christian Concern is a group that actually advocates on behalf of the persecuted church. ICC introduced you to me and made the arrangements for our initial connection. So how has International Christian Concern been involved?
They have been in contact with us from the very beginning. They've helped us get media coverage, and they have updated the State Department about my situation as everything was unfolding. They are always looking for ways to help not only me, but also the 70 other people in this similar situation.
Well, Joy Subasiguller, I knew Subasiguller has been joining us today here on the Meeting House on Faith Radio. I got my phonetic spelling right here before me. So Joy, if people want to find out more information about your case, is there a place that they can go to learn more or to connect with you?
They can look at me at Facebook. Joy Subasiguller. Everybody can find me. That's S-U-B. Yeah. That's Subasiguller.
All right. Very good. Joy, it's a pleasure having you on the program today. And I would encourage our listeners to be in prayer for you and your family as you trust the Lord for the next step in your journey of ministry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And we do thank all of your listeners for their prayers, not only for my family, but also for the situation in Turkey.